But so how was the transition coming out of this? I know you talked about your relationship, and he helped, it sounded like.
Yeah, yeah, he did. You know, even though we're not together now, he saved my life, and he gave me stability, which is something that I'm very grateful for. He's not in my life, but we do talk every now and then, especially when I'm just trying to check up on the kids and see how things are going with them, or we still have some financial ties to each other. But we're both in new relationships. We both have our own lives. But I let him know, like, I appreciate everything that you did for me, because if I wouldn't have met him at the time, I probably would have still been in the life in some kind of way. And something probably would have driven me back into prostitution. There's no telling. But yeah, he gave me stability. He gave me family.
Wow. Well, on that note, I know that a lot of girls, I think Elena was saying it was, they tend to go back to the life. She was saying on average, I don't want to get the number wrong, but it was something really high, give or take, I think it was around 10,
Yeah.
maybe 12, maybe a little 12, a little higher. But why do you think that is? I know that there's probably a lot of different reasons.
Oh, there is. It depends on if the family was selling them into the life of prostitution or human trafficking. It depends on if they have a stable environment, if the parents are on drugs, or they are, neglecting the child in some kind of way. That will leave the child vulnerable to being in the life. I've heard stories of mothers selling their children to drug dealers in order to feed their habit. And that it starts out that way. Then the drug dealers end up turning into pimps, and they start to sell that child to other people. It could be, with the parents again, the mother can coerce the daughter. Look, I don't have any money to pay for our place. We're going to be separated if I can't pay the rent. Or I have no money to feed your younger siblings. I need you to spend time with John, in order for us to eat, or it could just be the child could be in foster care. They could be being physically abused, sexually abused in that foster home, and they're so used to being sexualized, they end up, falling into the hands of a pimp, or they are coerced by a peer that used to be in the life or that is currently in the life would say, look, I have a way for us to make money and we don't have to depend on anyone. And now it's starting to turn into something else because of the internet. A lot of talent agencies or management companies will use those women into commercial sex industry. It could be porn, video, or photography. It could be having sex at video shoots. It has turned into a beast.
Well, I think that's what it was that we were talking about, was the difference that technology has made for good, because the organizations that you work for, hopefully shows like this can get the word out there, but it's also bad because it's given more avenues for people to exploit.
Yes, definitely. Like I said, it was just an interaction with face to face, person to person, back when I started, which was in the 90s, where now it's the internet. A guy could, or a girl could send something in someone's direct messaging, hey, I think you're beautiful, come make some money. There's ads posted all over the place on the internet, make quick money. It's they don't have to work the streets anymore. And that's how it was when I was in. Now they could post ads on Backpage or Craigslist or the other little pop-up sites, since they've been shutting down those Craigslist and Backpage. They're using dating sites. They're using a little bit of everything now in order to find customers to work.
Not that it makes a difference, but just out of curiosity, did you or do girls see any of the money that was coming through?
Working under a pimp, no. They would give you some money for your drug habit. They would give you money, to get your hair done or to buy an outfit to work in. But far as actually seeing anything, no. When women work as renegades, not under a pimp's control, they're using it to help their household in a lot of cases. Where some girls use the money for their drug habit, or some girls use it for materialistic things. They want to be, envied by other women. They want to buy expensive shoes. They want to, dress the part. So that money, when you make easy money, the easy money goes very fast.
Is it seen as being a little bit higher status when you're a renegade versus under a pimp?
It's made to seem that way, but there's really no difference. There's also different classes. Well, the women that look like me that grew up where I grew up, they're considered prostitutes. Where the women that don't necessarily look like me, they are escorts. They're able to make more money. They're able to go to certain places.
Are you talking about in like higher income areas?
Yeah. You won't find that many black women in those circles. There is a lot of classism, colorism, that it plays a part in human trafficking or even the sex industry. And a lot of the women that look like me, even to this day, it's hard to hear, but in certain cities or in certain states, the rougher around the edges you are, the less help you're going to get, which is sad.
I was going to ask, does anyone ever go to the police? Or do girls ever think about it?
Oh, no.
How come?
Well, it takes a very serious situation in order for a girl to go to the police because, our parents and our siblings and our uncles and aunts always told us not to talk to the police. And that stems from, the 80s and the 70s when there was a lot of corruption that was going on in the police departments. So they've always been taught that the police aren't there to help you. And plus, if you look at yourself as a prostitute, you're a criminal. How can you be a criminal and going tell another criminal? The fear of them going to jail, or the fear of the police not doing anything. And, you made this report on this person, there's a fear of retaliation. So there's
from the pimps.
From the pimps or the pimp's family. I mean, a lot of people, I try to make them understand DV, like domestic violence, and human trafficking are similar. When a person is a victim of domestic violence, they're running from one person, right? Where a victim of human trafficking is running from a network of people.
Oh, wow.
Because if your pimp is in jail or can't get a hold of you, somebody else or another person's pimp that might know him and know that you're with him or was with him might come after you.
Oh, wow.
So it's there's a lot of resources that women need in order to get out of the life. There aren't that many housing programs for human trafficking victims. A lot of the victims are going to domestic violence shelters, which they're not equipped at dealing with that population. So a lot of the women aren't very successful in those programs. Where there are a few that do succeed in those programs, they're tired. You know, they want out, they want help. So they're willing to follow the rules and the regulations. But, you know, some of the housing programs are a little too religious, you know, where some pimps might use scripture in order to manipulate them or to brainwash them into staying with them.
So a lot of these places can be grounds for pimps to exploit?
Well, no, not necessarily. It's just you're leaving one controlled situation and going into another controlled situation. And it's like, you know, I have a curfew. I have to, you know, abide by these rules. And it's like, instead of me going ahead and doing this, I could at least have a little bit of freedom and just go back to my pimp or go choose up with another pimp. So it's just, I don't have the answer or what will be the perfect program, but there really needs to be more programs for these women because these women, you know, could be in a DV shelter, and these women that are victims of domestic violence don't really understand this woman who was a human trafficking survivor at that time. She's looked at still as a prostitute. She's still nasty. She's still, you know, she shouldn't be respected because of the stuff that she allowed herself to do. It's all perception. Where in the HT house, human trafficking house, there would be other women that come from the same place that understand why they got into it. So that's not really much of a conversation. It's more of, you know, how do we get out of it? You know, and there's not that many of them. I think there's only like 33 in the nation. I think California has the most. I think it's only like 12 of them here. Not 100% sure, but there needs to be more, you know, especially in Los Angeles. I mean, this is I think it's either the first or the second highest prostitution rate in the state, in the country. So there needs to be a lot more programming.
Well, what was the recovery transition like for you? So when you were in that relationship and you said that motivated you to get out of the life, how was that emotionally, or what was that transition like?
It was rough because what I want you to understand is that my trauma started way before the human trafficking. I was sexually molested starting at the age of 6, eventually raped at the age of 10 by a family member. And I lost myself then. I had no idea of who I was then. So the going into the life in the human trafficking was just added on top of that. So there was insecurity for most of my life. There was, you know, wanting to please other people all the time, putting myself second most of my life. In that relationship, I still did that. I still put myself second because now I have 3 kids and my boyfriend to take care of and to worry about. But it wasn't until that relationship ended. Well, I can't even say that. There was a point where we were starting our own business.
You and your ex?
Me and my ex, yeah. And, you know, I tell women all the time, if you've ever been in the life, you are an entrepreneur. You are a businesswoman, because if you can sell yourself in those type of extremes, there's absolutely nothing that you can't do. You know, I let them know, I mean, as far as their women that have never had a resume, look, you have skills. You're a multitasker. You know, you can work well under pressure. You know, you can negotiate. You have those talents. And they're like, well, that's crazy that you would say that, you know, especially when we're dealing with this. But I had to look at that within myself. And unknowingly, when I was in the relationship with my ex and we started our business, I took care of business as I would have in the life, you know, taking something that's negative and terrible and turning it into something positive and profitable. We ran a detail business for 6 years. and we did very well with that business. And that gave me another spark. That gave me another way of looking at myself, empowering myself in a positive way, not being a renegade, but being a business owner with my partner. And then when that ended, and I ended the relationship, and I came back to California, and I was couch surfing. At the time, I was lost again. Where is my identity without this man? You know?
That is true, because you went straight into a relationship that lasted a long time.
I was 13 years. And it was just, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was completely lost and confused on where my life was heading at that time. So when I came back to California, like I said, I was lost, and I met my mentor. And
How did you meet?
My cousin worked for her at he worked for an organization called Helpline Youth Counseling, and she worked at a Kings Park in Long Beach. There we go. And she knew about my cousin's trauma in the family, and she wanted to know my story, because I would pop in every once in a while, go to some of the community meetings. And so I sat down with her, told her my life story from beginning to end. I think it took like 2-3 hours. And she was like, "You're a victim of human trafficking. You were a victim." I'm like, "No, I was a prostitute." She was like, "No." I was like, "How is that possible when I was raised here in America, and I didn't go out overseas or anything like that? How am I a victim of human trafficking?" And she started to explain, and then she told me to go to a couple trainings, and I did, and it was eye-opening for me. Now I'm not a criminal. I'm a victim. For some people, that means saying like, wow, like who wants to be a victim? But it was eye-opening for me. It gave me reason for my actions. And then someone told me like, "No, you're not a victim. You're a survivor of human trafficking." And I was just like, whoa, really? Now, that took it a step further. And so she told me that there was a group home that was in need of a survivor of human trafficking in order to facilitate groups. And so, I considered it, went on the interview. Come to find out, it was a group home that I was a client of 20 years prior.
Wow.
And I worked there with the girls there for about 2 years. And that helped me. That helped me out a lot. It helped me recover. It helped me understand, because I'm learning with these girls.
Yeah. What was that like, to have that realization?
It was full circle for me. It really was full circle for me, because these girls are identifying themselves. Even though the conversation is a lot more open now, it's a lot more accessible because of the internet, and because the staff at the group home have to be trauma informed. They have to do a preventative work for human trafficking. So these girls are like, wow, yes, my boyfriend told me that he loved me, and then he told me he didn't have any money and he needed me to go sleep with some guys in order to get paid. Wow, I was a victim. I'm not in it right now, so that means that I am a survivor. And it's just like, I'm like, yeah, like, wow, right? This is crazy. And so from there, while I was going through all that, I was homeless.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was living on Santa Monica Beach.
Well, what was that like? I mean,
then it was terrible and rough, but now that I think about it, it was great, because I had a choice when I came back and when I became homeless. I had a choice to either go back to the track, post an ad on the internet.
Right, because that probably would have, you knew that life.
Yeah, it would have been very easy for me to stumble back into. Or I could have found a guy who thought I was cute and let him have his way with me so I can have a place to stay. That wasn't an option. Or I could just, thug it out, as they say. Just handle my business the best way that I knew how to, in order for me to keep my sanity and to keep my integrity. And that's what I did. I lived on the beach. So I basically lived at Santa Monica Pier for like 9 months.
Wow.
I had $100, buy a bus pass, another $100, my storage unit. I had my EBT card for my food stamps that I was able to buy my hot meals with and food. Had a gym membership so I could take my showers. Pack my bag every night.
How were you making money during this time?
I was mentoring at the group home.
And you were and that was
They would pay me a stipend for a couple of hours to work, just to mentor. At first, it was just to go to the groups, and then they asked me to stay a little longer just to do one-on-ones with the girls, it was great. So I probably made about $800 a month, if that. So I would pay my phone bill and for those other items, pack up my bag at the storage unit, go to Starbucks, plug in. I had 2 phones. One was working, one wasn't, and I had an iPad. Plug in everything, go surf the web, look for job applications, fill them out. And I would, as soon as Starbucks will close, go to the beach. I also paid for my Netflix. There's free Wi-Fi at Santa Monica Pier, FYI.
Oh, there is?
Yes.
Good to know.
And I would sit there and I would either continue to surf the web, looking for jobs, or I would just watch Netflix until the sun came up. As soon as the sun came up, people would start to come to the beach. And I would go into the middle of the beach, have my hoodie, put it over my head.
Because you didn't want to sleep at nighttime?
No, it was too dangerous, especially for a female. And plus, I've been on the street since I was 12 years old. I knew what to and what not to do. So as soon as the sun come up, go to the middle of the beach, sleep for a couple of hours, go to the gym, take a shower, get on trains and buses 3 hours to Fullerton every day.
Is that where that's where
the group home was? And do a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours there, get back on the trains and the buses, get back, and do it all over again. When it rained, of course, I would get a hotel room, save up enough money to get a little car, just to get me to point A to point B. And then that's when my mentor told me that there was a program, career preparation program called 2 Wings. And she told me that I would be a perfect candidate for it. So at first I'm like, I know how to get a job. I know how to fill out an application. I know how to go on an interview. Like, this is whatever. She was like, well, they'll pay you. I'm like,
Oh, they do? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they give you a stipend
wow.
Every month just to attend. It was a great incentive for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm going in. I'm just like, okay, show me how to fill out an application. But it was so much more than that. It was career preparation, but it also taught you life skills. There's one class with Todd Scott. He's my favorite facilitator. It's a 3-day class, and he talks about trauma and PTSD. Taught me how my brain works, and it was fascinating. Talked about intellectual intelligence. He talked about so many different things, and it was just like, wow. And then there were so many other different classes. There was a self-defense class with a guy named Jay. He does our security, and he does, what's it called, Krav Maga. Krav Maga. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yes. So
they would know. Okay, they're nodding yes. So
okay. So he taught us. He did one class, and it was great because we already felt comfortable with him because he would My car broke down, so I was back on the bus, and he would walk me to the bus stop.
Elena was telling us about the security guard, and she
Yeah.
loved that there were men in there that were setting
Yeah.
good examples for, girls that had been abused and exploited by
Yes.
men. I thought that was so great.
And he's like this tall, 6 feet, 6'2", white blonde guy, and I have him standing in the middle of Crenshaw in South Central Los Angeles, standing at the bus stop with me. And, he's just like, I'm good. I'm like, no, I need to protect you because we're like in the hood right now. But he's a great guy, just because like you just said, men have always been the predators, and to have, and there's a few more men there, but he made the biggest impact on me. Because he always asked, how was your day? He always, are you driving? Are you going to the bus stop? Hold on, wait, I'll walk to the bus stop with you. Or drive you over to the bus stop and wait until the bus came and wait till you got on the bus. And so it was.
Do you mind if I ask if that was weird for you? Because
No.
you've been through so much, and you sound like you have kind of been really like independent this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So to have someone come to protect you, I guess, was that weird or not really? It was just...
Not really. It's something that I've always wanted. Mm-hmm. I did have a few male friends that were really good to me, in and out of the life, and I knew that there are good people in the world. I was never bitter because of my experiences. I always had hope that there were good people. And so when situations like that came about, I took it. But, back to Two Wings, it was, I met 2 young ladies that were a part of my cohort. They're great. We're sisters. And then when I graduated from that program, I felt accomplished. This was the first program that I've completed. I dropped out of school in the 6th grade. Never had a graduation since kindergarten.
Wow.
So that was something to celebrate. And then my mentor was like, okay, so now you need to get your GED. So I completed my GED, and that was, I didn't think I would be able to, not knowing that the education that I got in 6th grade in Pacific Palisades was way beyond anything that I would have gotten in South Central Los Angeles. So they prepared me, my teachers prepared me for that moment. There's one teacher, Mr. Merritt, he was my 4th grade teacher. Miss Croft, she was my 1st grade teacher. Mr. Vaughn, he was my 3rd grade teacher.
Oh my gosh, you remember?
Yes, because they made huge impacts in my life, and when I completed my GED, those were the teachers that came to mind because
they did?
Yeah.
Wow.
I love to learn, I enjoyed school very much, and that moment right there just reminded me of those teachers and the time that they put into me. And then shortly after that, we had our Two Wings graduation. And I felt like that was the graduation that I've always wanted, for other people to celebrate me, which is weird, but it's something that I've always wanted.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching the episode. If you're interested in contributing to the conversation and supporting the show, there's 2 easy things you can do. 1, click subscribe, and 2, visit our Patreon page where you get exclusive access to the Exploring Minds community.